Today, we're going to talk about a road, but it's not really about the asphalt and the concrete. It's about a massive public highway project that turned into a massive corruption scandal. A story of how public money can just disappear into a maze of fake records and totally broken trust. So, let's get into it.
Okay, let's start with the number that just blows this whole thing wide open. 1,063 crore rupees. Now get this. That's not the total cost of the road. No. That's how much the price tag was allegedly inflated by. It's a truly staggering amount of money, and a huge loss for the public.
And when you see it like this, visually, it's just wow. On the left, you've got the original cost, what was actually approved. And on the right, the final, bloated figure it ballooned into. The cost didn't just go up a little bit, it nearly doubled. This wasn't some simple miscalculation, it was like a financial heist hiding in plain sight.
So, to really get our heads around how something like this could even happen, we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at the core allegations, the billion-dollar road. Then we'll dive into how the whole scheme was put together. After that, we'll ask why the system failed to stop it, and finally, we'll talk about what could happen next, the path forward.
All right, let's kick things off with part one, the billion-dollar road. We're going to unpack the absolute basics of this case.
Now, what's so important to understand here is that this isn't just a bunch of rumors or something the media cooked up. No way. An official First Information Report, an FIR, has been filed. That means a formal investigation is officially happening, looking into a conspiracy that allegedly involves senior engineers and private contractors. This is a serious legal case now.
And you just have to listen to the actual language from that FIR. It's incredibly direct. It's not talking about mistakes or oversights. It accuses them of a conspiracy to, and I'm quoting here, cheat, defraud, indulge in fabrication of records, and adopt corrupt means. I mean, that language paints a picture of deliberate, coordinated criminal activity. Okay, that leads us right into our next section. How in the world was a fraud this big even possible? How did they pull it off?
Yeah, that's the question on everyone's mind, right? How do you manage to inflate a project's budget by over 1,000 crore rupees and just hope no one notices? Well, the answer seems to be in a really systematic manipulation of the entire process.
See, it wasn't just one sneaky trick. The investigation suggests it was a whole strategy. You had officials allegedly in cahoots with contractors faking records. They supposedly jacked up the numbers for how much work and materials were needed, they approved technical specs that were totally over the top and unnecessary, and they twisted all the technical details to make the soaring costs look justified. It was basically a well-oiled machine of deception.
And this, for me, brings us to maybe the most infuriating part of the whole story. The total failure of any kind of oversight. Why didn't anyone catch this sooner?
I mean, seriously, this is the part that's just so hard to wrap your head around. This project was supposed to be done and dusted back in 2014, but it just spiraled out of control for years. If the numbers were so obviously off, where were all the checks and balances? Where was everybody? And here's the crazy part. The whole thing didn't get exposed because of a government audit or some brave whistleblower. Nope. It only came to light because the contractors, believe it or not, got greedy and went to arbitration demanding even more money. It was the details that came out in those legal proceedings that finally forced the government to act. The internal controls just completely and utterly failed. This timeline really lays it all bare. The highway should have been finished in 2014. For years after that, as costs just skyrocketed and deadlines flew by, there was nothing. Silence. No official action. The investigation only started now, not because of good governance, but because of external pressure. So, after all of that, where do we go from here? Let's talk about the path forward and how all the frustration from this scandal is now being turned into calls for real, concrete action. You see, this case has become a real lightning rod. It's exposed these huge systemic problems. And because of that, citizens and advocacy groups aren't just calling for punishment in this one instance. They're demanding major reforms to make sure this kind of thing can never happen again. And they have a plan. Here are the 4 key demands on the table. First, hand the whole case over to the CBI to make sure the investigation is impartial and free from any local political influence. Second, launch a forensic audit of all major road projects. Let's see if this is just a one-off or a widespread problem. Third, empower regular citizens to use the Right to Information Act to keep tabs on this case.
And finally, create a citizen-led monitoring committee that has the actual power to go out and inspect these projects for themselves.
And that's really the bottom line here. The true costs of a scandal like this isn't just the 1,000+ crore rupees, as mind-boggling as that is. It's the unfinished road that holds back an entire region's development. It's the corrosion of public trust in the very institutions that are supposed to be working for them. And that's a price that's much, much harder to calculate.
Which leaves us all with this final big question to think about. When that fundamental trust between the people and their government gets shattered so completely, who's actually responsible for putting the pieces back together?